Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And happy Tuesday. I hope you've all had a fantastic day or having or about to have whatever. You know, we're all over the world right now. And hello, Jessica. And it's so good to have you. And thank you for joining me again tonight because I know you've just been away and just got home. But yeah, you are on my little show. So I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. Wonderful to see you again. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Yeah, I just got home from Reno, Nevada, out west of the United States, and I was there with my spaced out radio team, and we were broadcasting live from Reno, and just had a great time. I went ghost hunting in like an old western town with cowboys and everything. It was so fun. So yeah, I'm still recuperating from that, but
I'm totally coming to visit you. I'm totally coming to visit you for
oh yeah,
sure.
you've got to come visit. We'll have so much fun. Yeah, especially with Bryce. With Bryce is involved. Yeah.
I was gonna say the terrible trio.
We will be trouble. We will be trouble.
I'm telling you, we will be so much trouble, but such fun trouble as well. Everyone who bumps into us will just be so happy that they met us.
Okay.
Right?
For sure.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome to everybody in our chats. Wonderful to see you all here again. And I hope my sound is fine. So if there's any problem with my sound, guys, just leave me a chat there. I've got these new thingy-mabobby-majobbies in my ears. These things, what do you call them again?
Earbuds.
Yeah, the earbuds, and they're new, and my other ones didn't work so well, so I'm trying these out. And yeah, thank you so much. Now listen, Jessica, we're going to be talking about such cool things tonight. Crop circles, orbs. Everyone's always saying they're seeing orbs flying around me, in behind me. I don't see it, you know, but apparently everyone else has all shadowy things running around. Whatever, as long as they're having fun, they're not perturbing me. And of course, the Alaska Triangle, dark pyramids, little people, and just fun things. But maybe you want to tell us about your ghost hunting first. What did you see? What did you come across? What was the purpose of your visit to Nevada, did you say?
Well, I went there to go broadcast with our radio show, Spaced Out Radio. And so I was there interviewing people from all over the country and all over the world, really. I guess it's mostly North America. But yeah, we were there on site at the casino that we were staying at. But we did that Friday night. And then Saturday night, we had the whole day and the whole evening. Well, first of all, to recuperate. Some people drink a little too much. I'm not going to name names, but
No, it's Sherlock.
Right. We had a big old party.
I think when people have these gatherings, alcohol is the order of the day, and then you really see some crazy stuff happening, right?
Yes. So it was, but we were just on vacation basically. We were having a good time. So on Saturday night we went to Virginia City, and that is I think it's north of Reno, where we were staying in Nevada, and it's these beautiful snow-capped mountains, and it's back. They have some old mines, like gold mines, silver mines, copper mines, up there, and so this is an old west town, and with a lot of history behind it. And there's one particular building there that was featured on one of my favorite ghost shows, Ghost Adventures. And back in 2004, a long time ago, the guys went there, and it's one of my favorite episodes of their show. Well, this place is called the Washoe Club. I think that's how you pronounce it, the Washoe Club, or Washoe. And it's this old building built in the mid 1800s, I guess, and it's just got a very dark history behind it. A lot of death and gunfights and stuff happened there, and a very high rate of poltergeist type activity, and just it's a nice place.
I'm not surprised, because when everyone is killing each other and shooting each other, that's quite a low vibration. And then naturally, I would imagine that a lot of those spirits or souls that are being killed and shot and maimed and murdered are not crossing over. So they're staying stuck in this realm, and then they create havoc, and then they start throwing things around and becoming all poltergeist-ish, and just start getting up to all sorts of mischief. You know, you can imagine just like being a ghost for 100,000 years. That must be bloody awful, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would suck. It would really suck. But hey, it's a beautiful area, and it's gorgeous out there. And the ladies and gentlemen dress up like cowboys and cowgirls and roam around the streets, and they have live gunfights during the spring, I guess. I don't think they were closed down when we were there.
Live gunfights.
Gunfight.
Like proper real guns. Like real
Well,
guns.
with blanks in them. They weren't really shooting each other.
Yeah. Like pop guns.
Yeah.
The Wild West for sure.
It was, but there were millionaires there back in the 1800s that lived there. I guess they owned the mines, or they staked some claims, I guess. So they had what's called the Millionaires Club, and that was upstairs of the Washoe Club where I was at. And people like Mark Twain hung out there. Okay, and they have the Mark Twain Museum there, who's a famous author. That was the pen name. Okay, that's not his real name, but anyways, super haunted place. And so we actually took a ghost tour, but I was with of course I was with like some of the top folks in the UFO community and the UFO field, and the cryptid community as well, and the paranormal community. Okay, our friend Merle was there. He's a big time. He's got a YouTube channel called the Paranormal Road Trippers, and he goes all over he lives in Canada, but he goes all over the place. He's going alone.
Wow.
He goes alone and to some of these places. He's going alone actually this week to a mining town up there, not too far from where we were, and he's going to stay by himself in an old mining cabin where the worst mining accident in the history of Nevada happened. And they put all of this.
What were they mining there in that area?
Gold, silver, and copper, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably more stuff, but that's what I know of. So they pulled the bodies eventually out of this mine, and they put them all in the yard of this cabin where he's staying by himself for 2 days, 2 nights, 2 or 3 nights. I don't know if I'd ever do that. And I'm pretty tough, but I'm not down to stay I mean, it could get really creepy out there at night. Really dense energy.
Did you see anything now? Did you hear anything? What did you see?
Yes, we actually saw orbs. We captured one of the ladies that was with us. It was she had just taken a picture of me, and we were going through her pictures and looking on her phone. And you know how some of the phones have like motion pictures, right? So you can see as you take a picture and you go back to look at it, it's kind of got like about a second of motion to it. And so on some of her pictures, as she's it's not the still shot, but on the motion part, there are orbs shooting past the camera and stuff. So we caught several of those, a couple of those. And we had a lot of voices that came through all the equipment that Merle had. And you know, just talking. We actually took a ghost tour of the whole town that lasted all night, and we did little ghost investigations at all the stops. A lot of death. Oh my God, a lot of death happened there.
Wow.
Mostly like, I hate to say it, but like prostitutes were there, you know, and just savage murders and stuff happened there, unalivings. So
I can well believe that. I can well believe that, especially in those days, like really wild, and you know, everyone unaliving each other for their gold or their little plot of earth that they have, where they're now making their their pound of flesh every day. Yeah, and drinking, you can imagine also all the drinking, right?
Well,
I mean, if you're looking at all those old Western movies, so much drinking and
gambling. Big time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they were losing money and stuff and getting mad about it. They shoot each other over losing money. There was actually one table. Okay, this is kind of dark. Okay, but there was one table. It was a poker table. Okay, where you play cards, and it had a sign over it, and it said it was I'm not going to say the word, but it was unaliving, the self-unaliving, if y'all know what I mean, table, and that 3 of the previous owners of this bar that it was in had shot themselves at this table after massive losses at this table. Or I don't know if it was like I guess they lost a bunch of money and they weren't able to pay the people who had won like 70 grand. 70 grand, $70,000 back in the 1800s. That's a lot of money.
I mean,
Okay.
that's probably about like 70 million now.
Yeah, it was a lot. Oh, so they just, but that table was notorious for people doing that there when they lost a bunch of money. They're just like, I can't pay it. I'm just going to go.
But this for me would again just like, it would be like those trapped spirits, the Raphael, I would imagine that's what they were. That's what would be there, because they would then, it's kind of like that curse just repeats itself, right? And it's in that sort of ongoing cycle. Wow,
It's
that's
on a loop.
incredible. That's crazy.
Yeah. So they had a plastic case over the table, and they said nobody wanted to deal cards at this one. I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. But I'm not into gambling too much. So, but yeah, we got a lot of interesting voices coming through, and they were actually interacting with us. Anytime someone would ask a question, a voice would come through and answer. Yeah, it was really cool.
What for me was the funniest thing. I was born also being able to see spirits, and I remember I think one of the first things I saw as a child was the lady standing in my bedroom with her 2 children, just staring out the window. And it turned out that the people who owned the farm before us, was still World War I days, right? He never came back from the war. And she was always waiting for him. And she had this blue dress on, and she looked unbelievably sad. And then when I said to my granny, I said, what is that? And she said to me, do you see it too? I said, yes. It's like the most normal thing. And then she explained to me. But I'll never forget going to Namibia on one of my trips. My friend and I were road tripping there. And Namibia is one of the most ancient, I mean, if you look at the Moon Valley, it's forms part of Earth's original crust, right? So it's a very ancient, in the Namib Desert, right? So it's a very ancient part of the Earth. And I was just one night just sitting, and I was just seeing them, just seeing the ghosty things walking about. But the crazy thing is, do you know what a fright they get when you see them? Normally it's the other way around.
Oh my gosh.
They got such a fright when they was like, ah! But I'd see them wandering around, and then they would get such a fright when they saw me, and then I would see them, how they died or when they were dead. So that for me was quite hectic, because some were in car accidents. There was one very beautiful girl, actually, she was unalived. Yeah, and she was a beauty queen there. Because I asked about her, I said she had very distinct features. And I said, who was that girl? And they said to me, no, a couple of years back, she was unalived. So also trapped, right? I mean, that's amazing, actually. But I mean, for me, it was very funny that they got such a fright when they saw that I could see them. It was like, ah!
Gosh, that's the first time I've heard somebody talk about that before. Where they were, I mean, because I've interacted with what I believe were ghosts before, and I've spoken with them, but it was all telepathic, where I could hear them talking to me, but I didn't, like, I would wake up and they would be standing around my bed and stuff. But like looking back on those instances, I think those were ETs now. I don't know. Those are just a screen memory. But anyways, it's but I've never scared a ghost before. Ever, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. That. And I'm actually generally not scared of those things, because I must say I'm not. But anyway, I think as you say, who knows? And I specifically, I definitely see a lot of them around the graveyards. I would go into graveyards some Sundays, and I would just sit there, and I would actually talk to them, find out what was going on, and if I could help them across, I would.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but
it's normal. It wasn't. I was born this way. It was normal for me to have that, and I know most people are freaked out by that, but for me, that's very normal.
Oh yeah, it's normal for me too. So you're not alone. And I worry about that kind of with my son now, because I have a child who's about to be 10 years old, and he's started seeing some things, okay, like ghosts and stuff. And
well, are you surprised, Mama Bear? You're his mother.
I was like, buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah, exactly. It's about to get interesting. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think that he's less, it doesn't make him less scared or anything, but I think that he's going to be more accepting of it, though, considering that, you know, he knows what his mom does, okay, and what I've experienced, and it's great to be able to kind of guide him and talk to him about it, and be understanding when it comes to that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's
That's
a
very
tough kid.
amazing.
Oh yeah.
Will he goes Bigfoot hunting with you, so
Oh yeah. We've got a trip planned pretty soon too, where we're going to be out in the woods again. So yeah, he loves it. He saw his first Bigfoot this past year. And so you know what? He's actually going to be on a radio show tonight. He's going on a radio show with me this evening, and
that is so
you'll be
cool.
asleep. Yeah, it's fun. Well, he's done it before. But one of our research teammates, our buddy Matt, he's going to be on the show, and myself and my son. And yeah, my son loves it. He loves going out there. I
Well,
don't let him
I
go
think
all the time.
we should invite him onto the show as well.
Oh my gosh.
That would be
Well,
so cool.
he's usually in school during this time, but maybe in the summertime. He absolutely loves going out and going camping and stuff. Yeah, as long as the weather's
That's
good.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Well,
Okay.
let us now talk about our crop circles, orbs, things like that. So let's start with the orbs. What are orbs? Have you any idea what orbs exactly are? Because I think
Mhm.
there's so many different versions of what an orb is. What is your take on that?
Well, there are so many different types of orbs. There's not just one type
Yeah,
of orb. I've
yeah.
seen so many personally, from balls of light to transparent, translucent, iridescent, ghostly orbs floating around. I mean, I've taken pictures with orbs that have faces in them at haunted locations that we've
Wow.
been at. There's also the metallic orbs, the ones that look metallic. My same friend that I just mentioned, Matt, who we're going to be doing a radio show with tonight, he has a video that he released. He showed it at a conference, at the Georgia Bigfoot conference with me, of an orb that shoots past a camera in somebody's backyard, and it lands on the ground, and it turns into what looks like a gray alien. And then it runs around in circles in the backyard. It turns back into an orb again, and then it shoots off past the camera again. So,
Wow.
and we've got these orbs over the crop circles. Okay, and there are orbs that have been filmed over crop circles in England. And this was one of my remote viewing targets a while back. I mean, let's see what year. It was 2 years ago. I was given a blind target by my friend Barry Littleton, who does shows with me, and he knows how to task me with these blind targets. And I have 3 targets here where we got really in depth with these crop circles, the orbs over these crop circles that are in these videos. Okay. And I thought it was a fascinating target to have because we got such interesting data. And so he had me describe and locate the origin of the orbs that were seen flying. Okay. So that was one of my targets. Another one was because in the data, we were finding that there were like good orbs and there were like the upside down orbs. Okay. And by that, I mean corrupted. Okay. Like
Yes.
the orbs, the original orbs that were here that were making crop circles, the ones that were seen, were actually putting out, or the unseen ones actually were putting out like messages to humanity and stuff. And then somebody got their dirty little fingers on them.
Would you say the original orbs that came, I mean, I would imagine that they are some type of spiritual entity, right, that maybe takes on that shape of whatever. And I'm sure that's why, they can take on many different shapes and sizes and forms and stuff like that. But would you say, so what you're saying is the original orbs that were on the earth are actually good? And, we know that the dark forces, the Lucies, as I call them, cannot create. They can only emulate or steal or whatever it is. Everything is created by God and pretty much so they would be the positive or the good and the negative or the bad, right? Or, you know, in that way. So they would literally take it, maybe emulate it, fake it. NASA might decide to create some of their own fake orbs or whatever it might be, because we know that NASA can do anything, actually. They're pretty smart in terms of that. But yeah, so the original ones, as you say, that were creating the original crop circles were actually from God. They were of God.
From
Is that what
source.
you say?
Yeah, that was, according to my data, the original ones came from source. And I mean, they were bringing good messages to like move us along, you know, advance us kind of as humans. Okay, so they had good messages, and they were to be interpreted. Okay, but for us to figure out. But that was, yeah, I mean, he gave me a target that was looking into like the makeup of what these crop circles or what the orbs are, the actual orbs, because they look solid in the video, the one that I was tasked with. And so, but I was coming up with like different types of data. So he gave me, because I got like the first target I did, I think it was the first target. It was very negative. Okay, very negative. He was like, okay, let's go back and look at this again, because we need to, you know, he kind of reworded the target, and I did another one, and it was like all good and like beautiful and from source. And I even got a downloaded message from source during the session that I did. And as I was doing the session, I was very emotional. And as I was repeating what the message was to my audience, I got sweaty and hot and my face turned purple. I was like, so it was like I was getting that divine energy flowing through me as I was giving this message. It was like I was meant to give this message to the public. So if I can find the message on here, I'll give it. I remember it. But yeah, it was as though these orbs that were making these crop circles had been, that it was almost like they had taken what this was, and they had corrupted it. And I mean, and you can go look up, if you look up crop circles and like the different types of them, I mean, they're making crop circles that have the Microsoft logo in them, you know, and like Freemason symbols and stuff, you know. So yeah, I mean,
well, it just shows you these guys are busy. They're just, you know, idle hands, really. They're obviously up to a whole lot of no good. And that's why, you know, we've got to be so careful with these things, don't we? Because there'll be truth and a whole lot of BS infused with that truth as well, to sort of try and dupe us and then make us look ridiculous. But yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, that's important for us to know that there's the real deal, and then there are the fakesters as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So as I was doing, I was actually remote viewing the good crop circle orbs. Okay, those ones, and I started crying during this session, and I was getting very emotional, and I got a download, and I actually wrote down "message to humanity," and then I heard loud and clear, "Don't give up, don't give up." And they said, I'm going to say they said, "Don't give up. We know you're tired, but we are here." And they said, "We know you're tired and you want to go home, but don't give up. Wow. We're here to help you. We're here to guide you," is what they said.
Wow.
We're here to help. We're here to guide up. And I was picking up on light warriors, light codes, seeding light, and it's all about teamwork. They said teamwork. And I'm getting hot again. So they said it's teamwork, and they were
I love the teamwork, because that's exactly what it is, right? It's teamwork. It's joining hands with each other and just doing it together, for sure.
They were thanking us for our teamwork. Okay, thanking us for the teamwork. But the main message was, don't give up. We're here. We're here helping you. You may not can see us, but we're here. Yeah.
You can hear us. You can sense us. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think crop circles are fascinating. I have a cousin who is an artist who traveled to England, and he was able to go see a fresh crop circle that had just popped up. I think it was the night before. And he got there, and the real, you know, these crop circles, the real ones, they have like blown, what they call blown nodes in the wheat or whatever the grass is out there. And so like in between the joints of like the stalk of grass or the blade, it has like it looks like an orb. It's like a circle, a ball that blows out. I don't know if that's from the radiation or what. I don't know what it is. But they blow out. And he tried to bring some back to the United States. He just threw some in a bag, and they got confiscated. Okay, at the airport, so he couldn't bring them in, of course, but he tried.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so he just made some artwork. He took a bunch of pictures of them, and he ended up sculpting some out of what he had seen and what he had for some of his artwork. So I thought that was really cool. But
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
So what is your take on crop circles? Maybe share that with us. I mean,
oh, me
speak to
personally,
the layman. Yeah, what are they and why are they created?
okay. Well, okay, so a lot of times they're just designs that are in like on farmland. Okay, they're like that comes from the
Yes.
sky. I mean, I have all sorts of examples. I wish I could show them right now, but I've got them. If you just look them up online, they look like ancient alien stuff to me. Okay, like sacred geometry symbols, basically,
Yes.
and there's like pictures of like gray alien faces, okay, and things like that. Stars, compass looking stars, and navigational looking stars, mostly just circular though, but in geometrical shapes. Now the reason, see, people were like really confused as to like, how are these crop circles being made? Where are they coming from? Of course, there's hoaxers out there, people that admit to going out into some of the farmlands and taking like boards, like plywood with ropes tied on them, and they step on them and they go around in circles over and over again until they make a perfect circle. And so those are the fake ones. Okay, I guess you call them fake. They're not the corrupted ones that I was referring to, with those corrupted orbs that I had been remote viewing, but they're man-made. Okay, like man-made, boots on the ground, man-made. But a lot of the crop circles, like if they're made in the daytime, because I think some of them must be made at nighttime where people don't see how they're made. But there have been orbs filmed. Okay, orbs, and those orbs actually looked a lot like the orbs that shot past that camera in that video my friend has, and turned into aliens on the ground, or an alien on the ground, and then shot back up. Well, these orbs look just like that. And so people were seeing them going over the farmlands and the crops and making like crop circles. And I don't even think there was like a laser beam or anything coming out of it. It's just like the orbs over it, and then voila, there's a crop circle. Okay, so but as they move over, they do move over it, but it just kind of blasts out a design on the ground. So yeah.
But if that design would be some form of sacred geometry, for example, or some type of, call it a heavenly symbol, would that be something with which energy is harnessed in a specific way, perhaps? Because if we look at everything, I mean, you know, the way I look at it, there's a reason and a purpose for everything. So if they're making specific symbols or geometric shapes, that would then be, I mean, if we just go back to pre mud flood type thing, you know, and the way that our ancestors were actually creating these incredible, which is now all the different church type symbolisms, which is part of what they've done for divide and conquer. But before that, they were harnessing energy with that. They were drawing energy. They were sort of directing it in certain ways. So would you say that would be in a similar way, that these crop circles are there to harness and perhaps direct energy in specific ways in order to get a certain result for something, the way the wind talks to the sun and the earth and the waters or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It could be any of those things. Totally.
Yeah.
And also, my friend Barry was talking about how something that's lit off, I don't know if it's like the radiation. I forgot what he was talking about. Okay. Because I'm no expert on this. I'm just the channel for the information. Okay. But he was talking about how there's something that has to do that's with these crop circles that can multiply the food supplies and stuff. So I don't know if anybody in the
Yeah,
chat
yeah.
knows about that.
Yeah, to me that would seem logical, and as you say, bring increased crops, increased food supplies, in a certain way, because I mean, I just think we've lost so much knowledge, you
Mhm.
know. We're living in a fallen reality right now, and we've lost so much of our original knowledge that the Lucy's have stolen from us. They've dumbed us down. They've put a whole lot of their toxic nonsense infused with this, which has confused the masses completely. So it would make perfect sense to me that that's how they were originally doing it,
Yeah.
harnessing energies in specific ways, getting the frequencies to talk to each other in a specific language type thing, so that you can get a specific outcome. And it's not Luciferian, that's the thing. It's not of the dark. It's God's way of saying, listen, humans, off you go, down to earth. There's so much you can do there. Energy is free. Use it and see what you can create with it. And we as humans are masterful creators, right? So I just think it's amazing that we've been given these opportunities, and right now, and for a long time, they've been stolen from us. And we've been dumbed down, and now we're kind of rediscovering it again, which I think is amazing. Actually, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, me too. It is amazing. And something that just flashed in my brain. Okay, I just had a thought. Are you familiar with the star forts that are all over the world?
Yes,
Okay, what
yes,
are
yes.
those? And do they have some sort of a connection to all of this? I'm wondering.
And a lot of those starports are now used for military bases. You know that, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, we have them. Well, they're
Yeah.
disguised as military bases now, and forts along the
Yes.
coast of like the Statue of Liberty sits on top of a star fort here in the United States.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
So
but so we're
again,
we're
I
told
would
they're from wartime stuff. The Civil War used them or something. I don't know. They're forts.
exactly, because I think when you look at those star forts again, they were created by our ancient forefathers and ancestors. Again, I would imagine they're on specific ley lines and
Mhm.
specific portals, maybe, again, and built in specific ways that were bringing in specific energies. And of course, what the Lucy's do, they just want to fight and war and kill everyone, so they turn everything into a military base, right? And they use then the shadow military to turn these things into disgusting things that whatever they wanted for, creating these horrific creatures of the night beneath
Mhm.
beneath the surfaces of the earth, for sure. I think
Okay.
they definitely have been there originally for, various things, whether it's to harness water, wind, earth, um, fire energies, because those are the elements when we're looking at the natural elements of the earth, right? And to bring it all together to harness specific, yeah, to be, I would say definitely on specific ley lines, because the ley lines are very powerful and they know exactly how to work with the ley lines. I mean, these guys are clever. So that now they've inverted that and turned it into something that they use for their nefarious purposes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I talk about not just the forts, but the battlefields here in the United States have a lot of cryptid activity, like Bigfoot sightings and dogman werewolf sightings. And I think a lot of that has to do, I'm not saying the Bigfoots, maybe the werewolves and stuff, these dark entities too. Um, they can be conjured there by all that bloodshed that happened there on the planet.
Exactly. Exactly. And I like what Darren is saying here. They are conscious ball lightning. They are conscious ball lightning, has consciousness, and you can interact with it via your own consciousness. Exactly. Because we didn't, originally, we were not even using language. We were all talking via ESP, right? And we understood each other. We were reading each other's energy. We were reading each other's frequencies, right? So I definitely think that, and as you say, they've now taken that and they've inverted it. They've disconnected us from our powers, basically,
They
by
took,
stealing.
oh yeah, they took telepathy and replaced it with telephones, right? So you just,
Exactly. Taking
it's
us
like a little
right
play
back
on
to the
words.
beginning. Disconnected
Yeah.
our DNA. We actually have 12 strands of DNA. 10 strands are dormant, and scientists have turned that junk DNA because they don't know what it is. But as we then start evolving in our consciousness again, it like plugs in. It's like plugging into a socket into a wall, and suddenly we start remembering and expanding and exploring our consciousness. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've really had to be dumbed down, and now we're kind of finding our way up the ladder again, which I think is super exciting. It's just such an amazing turn of the tides, and it's just such an amazing time to be alive. Gosh, this thing keeps falling.
Oh yeah, I'm clawing my way out. I'm clawing my way out, and I think it's important for us to talk about this stuff, just so everybody who's watching can do their own research on it, and everybody even in the chat is like really giving a lot of good information about this stuff. Anything that we're missing, they're covering over there in that chat. So I love this. I love how we're just putting our brains together today on this.
No,
In all ways.
absolutely. I love it. And you know what's amazing? I mean, and I always say this, since for the last 3.5 years that I've had my channel as well, it's just the amount of people that have woken up, and that sounds like an insult. It's not, I don't mean it that way. But we've, so many of us, and for such a long time, we've known something is up. We've known like what. And with all of us coming together, for we figuring it out, right? This is what I love about technology. They've created technology really for their own nefarious purposes mainly, but hey, we'll be using what they've created at the same time, and reclaiming what is rightfully ours as well. So we can have these discussions. We can have people coming together and reclaiming what is naturally ours anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's time for us to do that. It's way past time. But I just love working with other people, and especially in the cryptid community and stuff. I mean, I did a fantastic interview yesterday. It's not going to air for a little while, but and I mean, the person who was interviewing me really made me think differently about things that had happened to me, and it was things that I had never even thought of before, with my experiences with having ETs in my bedroom and stuff, and just I was so impressed by that, by just having me think about something differently, and being open to the possibilities of it not being exactly what I thought it was, and so I don't know. I won't get into details about all this, but it was almost like, well, well, I guess I will get into details because everybody's wondering now, right?
Yeah,
But we were talking
absolutely.
about,
You're not going to leave us hanging, sister. You're not leaving us hanging.
no. Well, I've got to now. So we were talking about an experience that I had where I woke up and there were some ETs in my bedroom. And I mentioned earlier that I had woken up and there had been ghosts in my bedroom. And now I think that those ghosts might have been ETs. Okay. But I didn't know I don't know, maybe it was to keep me from being too scared. They showed themselves as ghosts, as people. But so I was telling the interviewer, the guy, I was like, well, I was really confused because my dogs wouldn't wake up, and my dogs were just laying on the floor and they weren't awake. And he said, well, have you ever thought about maybe you weren't in the same dimension with your dogs at that time? Maybe you weren't there in that 3-dimensional reality that you were actually like a step above in another, like you were in your astral body, basically.
Yes.
Like he kind of compared it to the Stranger Things show with the upside down world, like you were in another realm, but you were also still there, but it was just slightly different, like walking into a portal. You go into a portal, it's just like a little bit different than your normal reality. It's just a little bit off. It's like you said, a step up, just another dimension.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my dogs would not have seen it.
Exactly. And that's why when you talk to people, and I mean, and Caleb Jade is a big one, because they were trained in the shadow military to do that. So just like step from one dimension into the other. So it would make perfect sense, that you would, you know, that's a great possibility, and more than likely a probability as well, that your dogs were unaware of what was going on. Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, but it made sense, and I had never even thought of that. And I felt kind of silly for not even thinking of that before. But it feels good to get another perspective on things
Yes.
like that
But
from
I
an
think
outsider.
it's so amazing, because that's exactly what we're talking about, isn't it? You know, when I
Yeah.
say we're all just here walking each other home, so somebody would have reminded you about that. You know, you're reminding other people about different things. So, and it's like, blick, somebody says something and it opens up that door, it like unlocks this little key that unlocks everything, right? So I think that's quite amazing that we are able to figure that out. And this is what I say, wow. So that's really amazing.
Yeah. It's I just love learning new things, and especially about, because you know, for so long I was so confused as to why my dogs didn't wake up. And my son was in the bed beside me, because and he didn't wake up, but I didn't expect him to wake up. He was a little baby. But my dogs, I was so mad. I was like, they should have been barking. You know, they should have torn those things up.
They were not meant to be torn up.
I'm like, I know that, you know, I woke up the next day. I was like, man, my dog should have woken up for that, though. They should have at least barked. But it would make sense that it wasn't actually in my reality. It was just a step above, like in the astral kind of. So
Right. Absolutely.
it's food for thought, as my buddy Barry always says.
Absolutely.
It's food for thought. Yeah.
That's amazing, though. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about the Alaska Triangle.
Okay. Well, the Alaska Triangle, I think we may have talked about a couple of things in Alaska before. We talked about Antarctica, maybe. We talked about Antarctica last time.
We talked about Antarctica as well. I know, and I was actually thinking, have we spoken about Alaska Triangle officially? I know we've mentioned stuff,
Yes.
but
Well, there's plenty there. We've got plenty to talk about. I'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we have plenty to talk about.
Else there is to unpack.
I think we touched on this before, because I may have talked about the little people there, the Incinerant people. Yes. And let's see if I have something. The little people, yes. So let me pull out my notes right here, just in case. Okay, so we can talk about the Alaska Triangle, because and if anybody's familiar or is not familiar with the Alaska Triangle, it's a place of untouched wilderness. I'm going to read this, okay? Untouched wilderness in the frontier state, where people go missing at a very high rate. The area connects the largest city in that state of to Anchorage in the south, to Juneau in the southeast panhandle, to Barrow is a small town in the state's north coast. Over 2,500 people go missing each year in Alaska.
Wow.
Can you believe that? That's a huge number of people going missing. But most of them disappear within the Alaska Triangle, where over 20,000 people have gone missing since the 1980s. That's a lot of people. Now, can that be
20,000 people? But does no one go looking for them? I mean, and do they ever get found?
Some of them do. And you got to think, there's a lot of wild animals out there. Okay, a lot of wild animals. And I know I'm going to get into some of the cryptids out there, because there's plenty of cryptids too, like Sasquatch.
So the poor animals get blamed then, right?
Yes. But okay, so I have a theory on why. Okay, so the wild animals are said to be much more violent against humans within this I started to say Bermuda Triangle, the Alaska Triangle. They're much more violent against humans, but through my research, I did find that there are weather manipulation stations up there, like HAARP. Okay, and we don't know what kind of frequencies these weather stations are putting off, and what other kind of bases do they have up there where they're putting off weird frequencies and stuff to manipulate the weather, okay, or manipulate anything. We don't know what's going on, but that would probably, if they've got high-pitched frequencies going off that we can't hear as humans, who's to say the animals don't hear it, and it's making them mad.
Wow, that's incredible.
Oh yeah,
like frequencies.
So, the frequencies. So maybe that's why the animals are more violent against humans right there, is because of something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but with the people going missing, okay, there's a movie called, I think it's called The Fourth Kind. And it is it's a great movie. It's supposed to be based on a true story. I don't know if it is or not, but it's about a town of a bunch of people who start going missing. And I believe it gets blamed on alien abductions up there. I think it was based on a true story, but I'm not sure.
So do you think those alien abductions are proper aliens, like the real deal, or do you think that's they're NASA aliens again with the spaceships with NASA on the side flying around? Because I've heard that's what happens around there too.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe both. I mean, somebody sent me pictures last year of a fleet of UFOs in I think it was a Boeing hangar here in the United States, like a big fleet of UFOs. They look like UFOs that you would see, like your typical UFO from like the 1950s, basically, but a little more streamlined. So after hearing some of the people that spoke at our event this past weekend in Reno, Nevada, our government 100% has in the United States. This is my opinion. 100% has reverse engineered spacecraft and stuff. I mean, I saw video of some things over the weekend up in the sky doing like practice runs with like helicopters flying around them and stuff. They look like spacecraft. Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, so
I'm wondering now, when we're looking at aliens and spacecraft and crop circles and things like that, I mean, you know, poor cows seem to get the brunt of this alien testing all the time. Why do you think? Have you ever checked on stuff like that? Why is it cows? What are they doing? Are they really abducting people, having sex with them, having alien babies and stuff like that? I mean, is that genuinely stuff that's going on? What is your take on that?
Yeah, well, okay, so I think it was last year, Texas, I believe it was in Texas, here in the United States, started having cattle mutilations again.
Yes.
Cattle mutilations. Well, it's not only cows, there are human mutilations as well. They're not talked about as much. It's a little taboo to even talk about it. People don't like hearing about that. But there are pictures. I mean, there's pictures that I've been sent from people in Brazil that had been mutilated. And yeah, I do believe, okay, so there is technology where, you know, it's like lasers and stuff are taking them. I mean, people have seen cows being taken up in spaceships and stuff. I mean, we even have that place out in Skinwalker Ranch here in Utah, in the US, where I remember the story about the cows were getting taken and stuff. But there was a point where the cows disappeared. All of them disappeared out of a pasture, and they went looking for them, and they found them all smushed into a little tiny travel trailer. I mean, they were like smushed in there and they were still alive, but they were all in like a catatonic state where they were just kind of like sitting, you know, they were dazed and confused, and they weren't moving. They were all piled up in this little tiny trailer and stuff. So, high strangeness, very paranormal. I don't know anymore. I used to I thought I knew, like they're aliens from outer space doing this, but now I don't even think aliens come from outer space anymore.
Come from inner space.
Yes, I think they come from the earth. I think they come from inside. I think they're interdimensional. They're using these natural portals. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's a whole bunch of different types of ETs and aliens and ultra terrestrials. You know, like of the earth, inside the earth.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It's confusing. Okay, but through my research, that's what I think. I don't think they're all coming from outer space.
So when you say that there's human mutilations as well, what are you talking about?
Well, okay. Well, I have an example. Okay, but of an incident where there were humans that were mutilated, and I've actually done like deep mind probes on them when I'm remote viewing and asked what happened. Okay, so human mutilations. Okay, they look like cattle mutilations, but they're on humans. And here's the thing, you know, that word that starts with the A and that ends with crone. Okay, that word. So their eyeballs are taken out. They got cuts around their eyes. There's like on cows, they take the skin right here on the side of their face. A lot of times they take the skin off and they drain it of their blood. Okay, it's just like a cattle mutilation. They take the organs. Sometimes they take the sex organs out of people and stuff. So it's rather dark. Okay. And I think that's why people ask, like, are aliens demons? If aliens are doing this to people, are they demonic? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. It's a good question.
To me, that would seem more legitimate as well, you know, that they masquerade as aliens. And in fact, Caleb has spoken about that as well. And if you guys have watched my shows with Caleb, he spent many years in the arcane. He studied all the levels of magic. And according to what he's saying, is that when it comes to these, especially the dark forces, they're not aliens. They'll masquerade as aliens, but they're the Rephaim. It's not the Nephilim, it's the Rephaim that will take on these specific shapes and forms, if you will. And what they'll also do is they then, you know, they have the homunculus, because they create the homunculus, which is humans without souls, but from all sorts of human tissue and flesh and mixed together. And the alchemists in the system create these humans, right? And then they will match that body, that human body is then matched with a Rephaim spirit, or soul, because remember, they can't actually create bodies anymore because they're too low vibrating. So they steal bodies. And that's why they're then creating these homunculus for them, matching them with the Rephaim soul. And then you have these creatures of the night walking around doing horrific things. And I think, and of course they can shapeshift as well. You know, they can definitely shapeshift as well. So they'll fly around pretending to be something that they're really not. I mean, if you just look at, if you look at the Bible, Lucifer himself can take on so many beautiful shapes and forms, right? And I mean, you know, in biblical terms, Lucifer would be head of all the dark creatures. So they can take on different shapes and forms, and they can pretend to be something that they're not. So yeah, it would make perfect sense to me that that's what it is.
I just had a thought as you're saying that, because I had been given a blind remote viewing target of something that happened at Mount Shasta in the United States. And it's called the Mount Shasta Robot Grandma. Okay. And I know that sounds so weird, right? The robot grandma.
As in grandmother.
Grandmother. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because it's a story that involves basically a kidnapping of a little kid by what looked like his grandma, but he later said it was a robot grandma. It was not actually human, but it looked like his grandma had taken on her identity.
Perfect sense. Wow.
Yes, but it took him into a cave at Mount Shasta. Do you want me to read? Can I read this paragraph? Let me read it for the audience. I'd love, because I think that this is relevant to what you're talking about. So Mount Shasta is a hot spot for people who disappear. A lot of missing people from there. In September of 2011, in Fowler's Campground in Northern California, a 3.5-year-old boy went missing. His parents quickly notified the authorities. Within an hour, hundreds of search and rescue people arrived. Within 5 hours of the search beginning, a deputy found the young child hiding in a bush. He was reunited with his parents, and he had a really interesting story to tell. He said to his grandmother, Kathy, her name was Kathy, that he didn't like other Grandma Cappy. He called her Cappy. I don't like other Grandma Cappy, who grabbed him that day. He disappeared and took him to a creepy place, and that the other grandma was a robot. He claimed that she took him in a cave filled with old guns, purses, and bags covered in cobwebs and dirt. He realized that that wasn't his real grandma when a light sparkled on her face, and he realized she was a robot. According to him, a robot is defined as someone made of metal and had a remote control. He said there were other people in the cave who had distorted faces and did not move. The other grandma walked him outside and left him in the bush, where he was later found by law enforcement. And they said, and the grandmother, Kathy, said that they had been camping in the same location a year prior to his disappearance. And she found herself, she said that she found herself face down on the ground with puncture wounds on the back of her neck, leading some to believe she had been cloned or something even more sinister. Okay, so a year before, this grandma had woken up after she'd been camping out there face down, and she had puncture wounds on her neck. Okay, so, and then what looked like her came and took her son away, her grandson away. Okay, but weird, right?
That definitely sounds a little bit Raphael-ish to me.
Yeah,
for sure. Wow, that's
well, what if?
completely correct.
Well, see, and that's what we were talking about. Is like, well, are people taken, and then they are, samples are taken from them, and they're either unalived or disappeared, or are they, done? Is it done when people are out camping and they take a little bit of their body, their DNA, so they can clone them? And now we got like soulless clones running around that look like us, like doppelgangers, that our bodies are filled with like dark entities. I mean,
exactly. And it's like, I think we spoke about Mel's hole last week. You spoke about that dog that went in and came in the town running around like normal, the dead dog, right? That was thrown into Mel's hole. And then the next thing, it's in the town running around, but didn't recognize. That's what those things are. And that's like a rift. Caleb was actually talking about that. Calls them, it's rifts. It's rifts, portals, and something else. I can't remember. Portals and something else there. We did a show on that. And like I said, what's in rift? You don't know. He really, and that's what and that poor sheep that was put in there as well, and came out with this picture of the night in its brain or something. I mean, that's that.
It was the tumor seal. The tumor seal is what they called it. So weird.
Oof. So yeah, so it makes sense, because that's what they do, and then they'll steal anybody they can, because they can't create their own bodies. So that's why and especially we're looking at the black-eyed kids, right? That's what they are. It's the Raphael that have taken over these bodies or had bodies made or whatever it is. It depends on various things. And they do. And we're looking at the Cabbage Patch Kids from the turn of the century. These kids that were in these. If those of you watched that Tartaria thing, these babies, these incubators, right? In these little incubators, that suddenly there was just hundreds of thousands of babies from all these single mothers who were giving up their children for adoption. We know that's a lie now, but it's the alchemists that were making the homunculus, and then
I love it. Yes. And we actually, so I live in Georgia in the United States, and we have a place in the North Georgia mountains where I go Bigfoot researching. It's called Babyland General, and it's the home of the Cabbage Patch Kids, the dolls.
Yes.
And it's here. And I went to Babyland General when I was a kid, but I had no idea how nefarious this actually is. They put it right there in our faces. It's human cloning. It's like human cloning.
Yes, and
to be used as slaves.
We did a show with Caleb on that a few months ago. So if you guys want to get Caleb's take on that, you should watch the show after we've called it the Cabbage Patch Kids. I think we did 1 or 2 on that. And it's literally exactly that Babyland hospital or whatever, in a very beautiful setting. And underneath, they're mining stuff, right? So they're having these babies born, and then you get to name them. That's the cloning. Those babies are cloned, those Cabbage Patch Kids. And then, of course, the spirit of the Raphael is matched with that baby. So it's not, it's not. But, and they use the thing, because remember, we are created from the spark of light, right? So the God's spark, as a human being, you are created from God's light. What they use is the spark is electricity, which is why electricity is so important for them, because it's that original electricity that creates the spark, and from there they then can start creating these homunculus. They call it the homunculus.
I mean, we had these things called the Old World's Fairs here in the United States in the late 1800s, the early 1900s, like 1902, 1896, and they had the incubator babies, and we've had the orphan trains that you were referring to. I've done a couple of shows on that too. Actually, the one on Facebook, the one on the homunculus in the Cabbage Patch got taken down on Facebook. Okay, for whatever reason. It's still on my YouTube channel though. You can still find it, and it's also on my Rumble channel. But yeah, they took that down for some reason. So, but anyways, the Cabbage Patch, I think it's very important for us to see the history. You know, they had those cards, they were like French, I guess it was like French cards of the babies in the Cabbage Patch where they're being grown, you know, they're being harvested. And if you go and you read the history of the Cabbage Patch kids, the dolls, those kids are being harvested to be slaves, to work in the fields. And Babyland General is a plantation.
The mines downstairs.
It's in the mines. But Babyland General sits on a gigantic farm, with crops all around it, just like where the crop circles are. It's on a huge plantation with that, from Gone with the Wind, if you've seen that movie, a southern plantation, which actually has like connotations. I know this is terrible, but it has connotations of like southern slavery down here in the South. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's ironic that they do that.
That's what they're doing, and you know, the more of it. And what was that YouTube channel, man, that first brought the stuff out?
Mind Unveiled had that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. The Mind Unveiled. They were talking on it, but that's why I say, you know, guys, if you haven't watched the stuff from Caleb Jade on my channel, go and watch it. He spent. I mean, he was taken into the system literally from birth. And he spent 35 years in the arcane and in the shadow military, where he was sent on these missions and has mastered all 13 levels of magic. And he was a master mage. So he knows what they do. And I mean, he's very reluctant to speak about a lot of this stuff because he doesn't want them... doesn't want to teach people anything, and he turned the corner. He's pretty much been out of it for like maybe a decade now, but obviously paying the price in a major way. He's plausible deniability. You all know what that means, and so yeah, no, he's fascinating to listen to. Absolutely fascinating. And at the moment, we're actually doing a series with him on the arcane, understanding the arcane, and he's actually walking us through all the levels of magic that they practice and what it means and how they do it. So
that's awesome.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Wow. Well, it's very, more to connect, you know.
Yeah. Very interesting, I have to say. Very, very interesting. So yeah. Wow. Well, we're just on an hour. Is there anything else you still want to maybe just end off with, Jessica? Otherwise, yeah.
Well, I mean, we've got so much going on in Alaska with all these missing people and stuff. You know, that's one of my main things that I like to talk about, is to bring awareness actually to all the missing people on our national park lands and our state parks and stuff here in the United States. I know it happens all over the world, but it happens here. That's why I touch on these topics so heavily. You know, we're places like the Alaska Triangle where there are so many missing people. So we can try to get to the bottom of this, you know, find out where these people really are going. So yeah, I don't know. We got the Incinerate people.
Is that what you guys call the 411s, right? Isn't that
yes, the missing 411 series with David Paulides. Yeah.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me when you're looking at all these, and the same thing that, you know, when we talk about child transportation, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there, where a lot of the kitty winkles just disappear into thin air. To me, when you're looking at a lot of these underground bases, and, you know, it's like Caleb will also say, you know, we always talk about Area 51. Well, what about the other 50s? What about the other 50 areas? You know, there's a lot going on. So honestly, I believe that these things, I mean, it's like he was talking about part of what his mission was. They were literally hunting giants in certain parts of the world, right? And there too, and because the giants would come out every so often when they get hungry, girls are pretty much nothing. Girls are bred to feed them. And that's how the humans in the area appeases the giants, is by giving them, the young girl sacrifices. They just munch them. And so in my opinion, a lot of that is actually feeding these creatures. That's the way I see it, because there's so many of them, especially when you're looking at these spiders, these huge, big, creepy freaking spiders that literally have a call of a human. It's like, it sounds like a human or a baby calling. And when you go there, they'll munch you. And it's also, because there are so many different dimensions, right? And we know, and before and like you're looking at entrances, like you must see the size of spiders found in the Congo here in Africa. I mean, there's lots of remains of giants and things here as well. That's for sure. You're looking at the cradle of humankind and stuff like that. So I honestly believe that some of them probably unknowingly step through dimensions accidentally or because when you go into forest, there's big entrances. So they can literally step into these entrances and then without even knowing it, go through the different dimensions. Right. Yeah. And then end up in another. I mean, what was that? What flight was that? Malaysia 437. Yeah, Malaysia 437 flight, where this aeroplane just disappeared. But was that a military operation? Who knows? But there's a lot. But I think, and the kids are disappearing. And big time, it's to appease these things. They've got to be fed, and they like human because they want the human consciousness more than anything. They don't have consciousness the way that we as humans do. They hate us. They absolutely hate us because we have that consciousness. The thing is, as humans, we have the ability to evolve. They don't. They're stuck in hell. We don't necessarily have to be in hell, so they're going to do whatever they can to keep us in hell. That's what the whole thing is about. They hate us. They really do.
There are humans that I've experienced that are like that too. So regular old humans that I know. Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, I've had my friend Daryl has been part of the secret space program. He worked with Solar Warden, and he was in the U.S. Navy, and he's been on my shows talking about the giant spider hybrid, man spider, Max or whatever, and he watched it eat kids and stuff. And, they threatened him. They said they were going to feed him to the spider if he didn't do what he was told.
I watched something on now whether it was true or not. I don't know if this particular story was true, but I did ask a few people in the know, and I was given yes, that this guy's father, the guy who actually wrote the story or spoke about it or created this video, his father worked at this, I think it was Area 51, I could be mistaken there, where these spiders were, and talking about humans coming there, and then they're the size of cars, and then being eaten by these things and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff going on there. And all you got to do is look at Lord of the Rings, right, with that massive spider. I mean, they're telling us all this stuff all of the time in any event. So it's happening. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of the kids are being sacrificed to these things. And we know, we've been hearing for a long time that there are dragons, some dragon, like live dragons under the royal castle and stuff like that, that are literally, they eat children.
Yeah. That is terrible. That's terrible. But I believe it, especially after speaking with some of my friends who have been part of the secret space program. So Yeah,
Absolutely.
they confirmed some of what my remote viewing data was saying about some of this stuff too. I'm just really fascinated with all these chimeras and stuff that are being made. I mean, it's quite sad, honestly, but it's also pretty fascinating with all the stuff going on underground. You know, so
See what we walk on every day. Ooh.
yeah, I know. Yeah, they have those big spiders in Antarctica too. There's stories out of Antarctica of soldiers being down there and being attacked by these gigantic spiders. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and the giants as well. They go into these caves where they have to literally, and they have special weapons that they've got to kill these things with.
Oh my gosh.
And they talk about that specific smell. There's a specific smell. And the one guy.
Oh, that's so weird. That's weird that you said that, because I had remote viewed, one of my targets was the giant of Kandahar. And during that target, I got sick because I was smelling this putrid odor while I was remote viewing it, and I could not get it out of my, I mean, I literally shut the target down at one point because it smelled so bad. And I could sense that disgusting smell.
Very
Sulfur.
Sulfur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
So that's true. That's true. You got that definitely right.
Yeah. Well, it's probably, is it from eating human flesh, I guess?
Yes, I think it definitely has to do with that as well. That whole thing. And they're covered in runes. They're covered in rune symbols under their skin.
Oh wow. Interesting. Yeah. Man, this is fascinating to me.
Isn't it?
I know. I love talking with you. Man, we have good conversations, don't we?
Absolutely. And we're going to have another one in 2 weeks' time.
Yes,
Yay.
I'll be back. I'll come back for sure. I have a ton of stuff we can talk about too.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a pleasure having you on. And
Thank
I want
you.
to just say thank you so much, Jessica. It's been amazing, fascinating. And as you say, Lisa D, fascinating and terrifying all at the same time. But nonetheless, you know, it's all part of this world we're living in. And I just think that these are such amazing times to be alive. Imagine telling your great-grandchildren, yeah, I was alive at the Great Awakening. So, you know, by the time the great-grandkids come, the path's already open, you know.
That's right. We're in it. We're in the thick of it right now, aren't we?
For sure. Most definitely in the thick of it.
Oh yeah.
Yay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're only going up from here. I'm convinced we're going up. We're ascending.
Exactly. Yeah, we're on our way up. We literally are experiencing hell on earth, and so many people who've lived this hell and now are on the way up. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So thank you, beautiful lady. Yes, always a pleasure having you, and thank you to everybody in our chat for joining. And I shall see you tomorrow, double Jessie, and then Bryce in afterwards again. And Thursday is Caleb again, and I don't Jerry Marzinski. Guys must watch Jerry Marzinski on Saturday again. So yeah, a couple of cool shows coming up. Love you all very madly. Take good care of you, and we shall see you soon.
Bye.